The stars do not remember. They burn across the void in their billions, ancient beyond reckoning, and they witness everything without understanding any of it. Civilizations rise in their light, empires crumble in their silence, species achieve wonders, commit atrocities, love and hate, and wonder at the darkness between worlds. And the stars do not remember. I have lived long enough to know this. I have watched the Kelthrani ascendancy stand for 11,000 years as the guiding hand of known space. I have seen our fleets darken the skies of 100 rebellious worlds. I have walked the crystal halls of the Grand Forum on Vatha Prime, where the Galactic Council once debated the fate of species with the casual authority of gods. And now I sit in the observation lounge of a dying ship, watching stars I helped name, and I wonder if they will remember us when we are gone. My name is Vethalor Dramani. I am 712 years old by the standard calendar. I have served as senior counselor of the Kelthrani delegation for the past 4 centuries. I helped draft the Charter of Galactic Unity. I stood witness when the Harn Collective joined our fellowship, and I wept when the Sithrani burned themselves to extinction rather than submit to our laws. I also voted to erase Earth. That was 437 years ago, in a chamber that no longer exists, on a world that no longer exists, surrounded by colleagues who no longer exist. I remember it with the terrible clarity that only old sins possess. I remember the holographic projection of that small blue world rotating slowly above the council table. I remember the voice of Admiral Kethvaron, deep and certain, explaining why humanity posed an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. Better to act now, while they were still contained. Better to cauterize the wound before infection could spread. The vote was not close. 47 species voted in favor of what we called preemptive stabilization. 11 abstained. Only 3 voted against. We sent a fleet of 9,000 warships to Earth, the most powerful armada ever assembled in the history of the Council, dispatched to extinguish a species that had barely learned to walk between stars. They were supposed to be erased. They were not. What happened at Earth remains classified at the highest levels, or it did, until there were no more levels left to classify anything. I have heard fragments over the centuries, whispers of impossible resistance, stories of human ships ramming Kelthrani dreadnoughts, reports of ground forces that fought with a savagery our soldiers had never encountered. The fleet that was supposed to cleanse Earth in 3 standard days spent 19 months in that system, losing ships daily before a ceasefire was finally negotiated. A ceasefire with a species we had intended to exterminate. The Council declared victory, of course. The records were sealed. The survivors of the fleet were dispersed to distant postings. Humanity was quarantined behind a boundary of automated weapons platforms and patrol stations, forbidden from expanding beyond their home system and the 3 colonies they had established before we arrived. And then we forgot about them. There were other matters to attend to. The Harn required integration. The Netheran trade disputes demanded resolution. The void reaches produced new anomalies every decade that required investigation and containment. Earth became a footnote in the Council's long history. A minor action against a primitive species, successfully concluded, barely worth remembering. I remembered, though.
Late at night, when the administrative burdens of my office faded and silence crept into my chambers, I remembered the face of the human ambassador who had stood before the council in the aftermath. A woman, small by their standards, unremarkable in appearance. She had listened to our terms, the quarantine, the restrictions, the monitoring, with an expression I still cannot fully interpret.
Not anger, not defeat, something else, something patient. "We accept your terms," she had said. "For now." For now. I should have understood what that meant. I was too proud to listen. The observation lounge shudders around me, and I am pulled back to the present. The ship groans with the particular sound of failing structural integrity fields. Through the viewport, I can see the scattered debris of what was once the Kelthrani Third Fleet. 700 vessels reduced to expanding clouds of frozen atmosphere and tumbling wreckage. We are running now, all of us, every species that once sat in judgment in the Grand Forum. The Netherans are gone, their homeworld a cooling cinder. The Harn Collective has been reduced to 3 refugee ships. The Vex, the Ortani, the Skelrath, all of them either destroyed or scattered to the cosmic winds. The enemy that hunts us has many names. The Void Heralds, some call them. The Ending, the Hunger. They emerged from the deep black between galaxies 17 years ago, and in that time they have unmade everything we built across 11,000 years. We do not know what they want. We do not know what they are. We only know that they cannot be reasoned with, cannot be bribed, cannot be threatened into retreat. And they cannot be stopped. I have watched the best minds of the Ascendancy develop weapons that should have vaporized their vessels, only to see those weapons absorbed like light falling into an event horizon. I have seen battle formations that conquered 1,000 worlds broken in minutes. I have stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigilance as Admiral Kethvaran, grandson of the admiral who led the fleet to Earth, ordered a final charge against impossible odds. The Eternal Vigilance is gone now. So is Admiral Kethvaran. So is hope. All except one. The ship shudders again, and I hear footsteps behind me. Commander Saley, my aide of the past 60 years, approaches with the measured grace of a Kelthrani who has seen too much death to fear it anymore. "Senior Counselor," she says, "we are approaching the boundary." The boundary. The quarantine zone. The wall of automated platforms that has kept humanity contained for over 4 centuries. Any response from the platforms? I ask. They went silent 3 days ago. We're detecting energy signatures consistent with controlled deactivation, not destruction. I close my eyes. 3 days ago. That was before we even began our approach. They knew we were coming. Saley does not respond, but her silence is answer enough. I rise from my seat, feeling every one of my 7 centuries in my joints. The viewport shows unfamiliar stars now, constellations that Kelthrani cartographers charted but never bothered to name properly because they fell within the quarantine zone. Irrelevant space. Primitive territory. That was what we told ourselves. How many ships do we have left? I ask. 47. 12 are non-combat vessels carrying refugees. The Harn have 1 ship, the Ortani have 3, the rest are Kelthrani. 47 ships. That is all that remains of a civilization that once counted its vessels in the hundreds of thousands.
Still pursuing. Long-range sensors show a formation of approximately 800 Void Herald vessels, 4 light-years behind us. At current speeds, they will intercept us in 11 days.
11 days. We have 11 days before extinction catches up with us. Then we had better hope the humans are willing to talk, I say. The words taste like ash in my mouth. 437 years ago, I voted to erase their world. I helped dispatch a fleet to slaughter their children. I signed documents that would have consigned their entire species to oblivion. And now I am fleeing to their doorstep, begging for salvation. If there is a God watching, it has a cruel sense of irony. The transit to human space takes 6 hours. I spend most of it in the observation lounge, watching the stars drift past, trying to prepare myself for what is to come. Saley brings me reports. The pursuing fleet has not accelerated. The refugee ships are holding together. The Harn survivor vessel has requested permission to join our formation. I grant it, of course. What else can I do? We are all refugees now. As we cross what was once the quarantine boundary, I expect to see devastation. Human ships destroyed by the Void Heralds, colonies burning, the same apocalypse that has consumed the rest of the galaxy. Instead, I see nothing. Empty space, clean and silent. No debris fields, no distress signals, no signs of battle. Commander, I say quietly, where are the humans? Saley studies her tactical display. Unknown. We're detecting energy signatures ahead, but no fleet formations. No defensive platforms. It's as if... She stops. On the viewport, something appears. It is a station. But that word seems inadequate for the structure that materializes out of the darkness as we approach. It is enormous, easily 10 kilometers across, a rotating wheel of metal and light, positioned at the junction of what our charts identify as the main approach vector to human space. It is not ornate. It is not beautiful. It has none of the soaring spires of Kelthrani architecture, none of the crystalline elegance of Netheran design. It is functional, practical, almost brutally simple in its construction. And it is covered in weapons. Not prominently displayed, not threatening, but I have spent 4 centuries as a diplomat in a galaxy where violence is always a possibility. I know how to read a structure for its defensive capabilities. This station bristles with them. Concealed batteries, shield generators, missile silos, sensor arrays. All of it integrated so seamlessly into the design that an untrained eye might miss it entirely. We are being watched. We have been watched since we crossed the boundary. We are receiving a transmission, Saley says. Her voice is carefully neutral, but I can hear the tension beneath it. Put it through. The voice that emerges from the speakers is calm, unhurried, speaking perfect Kelthrani with an accent I cannot place. Kelthrani vessel, this is Way Station 7. You are entering United Earth protected space. Please reduce velocity and transmit identification codes. A representative will meet with you shortly. That is all. No threats, no demands, no acknowledgement of what we once tried to do to them. Just calm efficiency. I look at Saley. She looks back at me. Neither of us knows what to say. Comply with their instructions, I tell her finally, and prepare a diplomatic shuttle. I will meet with their representative personally. Senior Counselor, with respect. I voted to destroy their world, Commander. If anyone is going to face the consequences of that vote, it should be me. Saley wants to argue. I can see it in the tension of her shoulders, the set of her jaw. But she has served me long enough to know when my mind is fixed. Understood, Senior Counselor.
The shuttle bay is cold. Half the heating systems on this ship have failed, and we cannot spare the power to repair them. I walk past rows of empty berths where shuttles once sat, launched in desperate evacuation attempts, sent on hopeless supply runs, expended in battles we could not win.
2 shuttles remain. I take the smaller one. The flight to the station takes 20 minutes. As I approach, I study the structure more closely. The rotating wheel creates artificial gravity, an elegant solution, if old-fashioned by Kelthrani standards. The exterior is pocked with the scars of micrometeorite impacts, but each scar has been repaired, patched, maintained. This station has been here a long time. It has been kept in perfect working order.
I wonder how many more like it exist.
The docking bay I am directed to is surprisingly busy. Small craft move in and out, shuttles, cargo haulers, what appear to be maintenance vessels. Workers in sealed suits float between ships, checking systems, loading supplies. It looks like any commercial port in the galaxy. Except these workers are human. I have not seen a human in 400 years. The last one I encountered was that ambassador, standing before the council, accepting our terms with that patient expression I still cannot interpret. These humans look different, stronger perhaps, more confident. They move with an efficiency that speaks of long practice, working in teams that coordinate without apparent communication. Several of them glance at my shuttle as I dock, but none of them stare. None of them seem surprised. I am expected. The airlock cycles, and I step out into human space for the first time in my long life. The gravity is slightly lower than Kelthrani's standard. The air smells different, cleaner somehow, with undertones of recycled moisture and growing plants. The corridor ahead of me is plain gray metal, but lined with strips of soft lighting that make the space feel less industrial and more lived in. A human is waiting for me. She is female, I think. The secondary sexual characteristics of humans are still confusing to me after all these years. She wears a simple uniform in dark blue, unadorned except for a small symbol on her chest that I do not recognize. Her hair is silver gray, pulled back from a face that shows the lines of age. Her eyes are what stop me. They are brown, warm, gentle even, but there is something behind them that makes my respiratory slits constrict involuntarily, something old and deep and patient. Senior Counselor Vethalor Dramani, she says. Her voice is the same as the one from the transmission, calm, unhurried, speaking perfect Kelthrani. Welcome to Way Station 7. My name is Director Chen. I've been expecting you. Expecting me? I cannot keep the surprise from my voice. We've been monitoring the war for some time. When the Kelthrani defensive lines collapsed, we calculated probable refugee trajectories. Yours matched our projections almost exactly. She gestures down the corridor. Please, walk with me. You must have questions. I follow her. What else can I do? The station is more extensive than I realized. We pass through corridors that open into larger spaces, cafeterias, I think, where humans sit eating meals and talking in low voices. Recreation areas with exercise equipment and gaming tables. What appears to be a school with children of various ages studying at workstations. Children. Human children. You have families here, I say? Way Station 7 is home to approximately 40,000 people, Director Chen replies. It was designed as a long-term habitation. Many of our personnel have been here for generations.
Generations. This station has been here, fully operational, staffed by families for generations.
The quarantine, I say slowly. We believed you were contained to your home system and 3 colonies. Director Chen smiles. It is not a cruel smile. There is genuine warmth in it, but it does not reach those old, patient eyes. You believed correctly, Senior Counselor. For the first 50 years after the war, we remained within our designated boundaries. We honored the ceasefire agreement to the letter.
And after 50 years?
After 50 years, we began to expand, quietly, carefully, beyond your sensor coverage, beyond your patrol routes, into regions of space your charts marked as empty or irrelevant. She pauses at a viewport, gesturing at the stars beyond. You drew a line around us and told us not to cross it. You never thought to ask what we were doing on our side of that line. I stare at her. How far have you expanded?
That's a conversation for later, Senior Counselor. For now, I think you should eat something. When did you last have a proper meal?
The question catches me off guard. I try to remember. The last few weeks have been a blur of emergency alerts, fail evacuations, and watching the death of everything I knew.
I don't recall, I admit.
Director Chen nods as if she expected this answer. The cafeteria on this level serves food compatible with Kalthrani digestive systems. We had 4 centuries to prepare for this meeting, after all.
4 centuries. They have spent 4 centuries preparing.
I follow her to the cafeteria, my mind reeling. The space is larger than I expected, filled with long tables where humans of various ages sit eating, talking, working on tablets. Several of them look up as I enter. I brace myself for hostility. We tried to exterminate their species after all, but what I see on their faces is something else entirely. Curiosity. Interest. A young human, barely more than a child by their standards, approaches with a tray of food. She sets it before me with a small bow and a phrase in their language that I don't understand but recognize as polite greeting.
Thank you. I manage.
The food is simple but well prepared. Some kind of grain, I think, with vegetables and a protein source I cannot identify. I eat mechanically, barely tasting it, while Director Chen sits across from me and waits. You're not what I expected, I say finally.
What did you expect?
I set down my eating utensil. Anger, hatred, demands for justice. We voted to destroy your world, Director. We sent a fleet to kill your entire species. I personally signed documents authorizing your extinction. I know. Her voice is still calm. We have copies of those documents. We know every name on the voting record. We know who commanded the fleet, who designed the weapons, who calculated the orbital bombardment patterns. She pauses. We know you voted in favor. The words hang in the air between us. I wait for the accusation, the condemnation, the righteous fury that I would feel in her position. It does not come. You're not going to say anything about that? I ask. Director Chen is quiet for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is thoughtful rather than angry. Senior Counselor, what do you know about human history? Very little. Your species was considered primitive. We did not study you in depth. We know. That was one of your mistakes. She folds her hands on the table. Humanity has existed as a species for approximately 300,000 years. For most of that time, we were animals, hunting, gathering, surviving. We developed agriculture about 12,000 years ago. We built our first cities, our first civilizations.
A short history, I say. The Kelthrani have records dating back 40,000 years.
Yes, and in those 40,000 years, how many existential conflicts has your species faced? I consider the question. Several. The Unification Wars, the Synthral Uprising, true existential threats, moments when your species came close to extinction. I am silent. The truth is, I cannot think of one. The Kelthrani have always been powerful. We rose to dominance early. We crushed our rivals before they could threaten us. Humans, Director Chen continues, have faced extinction more times than we can count. Ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, plagues that killed half our population, wars that killed tens of millions. We invented weapons capable of destroying our entire civilization and then spent decades with those weapons pointed at each other, one miscommunication away from annihilation. She pauses, and her eyes meet mine. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times before we ever left Earth. And then you came to finish the job. I cannot look away from those eyes. There is something in them now that I did not see before. Not anger, not hatred. Something deeper. Something forged in fire and tempered by survival. What happened at Earth? I ask. The records were sealed. I never learned. What happened at Earth is that we fought. Her voice is quiet, but there is steel beneath it. Your fleet was larger, more advanced, more experienced. You had weapons that should have rendered our defenses meaningless. You expected to find a divided species, squabbling nations that would collapse in the face of unified aggression. And instead? Instead, you found something you had never encountered before. A species that knows how to lose. A species that has been pushed to the edge of extinction and clawed its way back so many times that we have learned not to fear the edge. She leans forward. You attacked Earth, and for the first time in your long history, you faced an enemy that would not surrender, would not break, would not accept defeat. We fought you with everything we had. When our ships were destroyed, we fought from the ground. When our cities fell, we fought from the rubble. When our armies were shattered, civilians picked up weapons and kept fighting. I think of the reports I heard. Ships ramming dreadnoughts, soldiers dying in human wave assaults against fortified positions, the fleet that was supposed to complete its mission in 3 days, spending 19 months in a grinding war of attrition. Your fleet killed millions of us, Director Chen says. And then they began to lose. Not because we were stronger, we weren't. But because every soldier you killed had a family that picked up their weapon. Every city you destroyed had survivors who rebuilt and fought on. Every victory you achieved cost you ships and crew that you could not replace, while we simply kept coming.
So you forced a ceasefire through attrition.
Yes, she sits back. And when your council declared victory and left us behind a quarantine wall, we began to prepare. Not for revenge, Senior Counselor. We're not interested in revenge. She smiles again, and this time there is something almost sad in it. We prepared for the day when you would need us, because we knew it would come eventually. Species that have never truly faced extinction become complacent. They forget what it means to struggle. They believe their power is eternal, their civilizations unassailable. She pauses. We knew something would come that you could not defeat. We knew you would need help. I stare at her. You knew the Void Herons would appear? We didn't know what form the threat would take, But we knew there would be a threat. There always is. The universe is not kind, Senior Counselor. It does not reward complacency. It tests every species eventually, and the species that have never learned to struggle are always the first to fall. I think about the past 17 years, the void heralds emerging from the deep black, the confident Kelthrani fleets moving to engage them, the first defeats dismissed as anomalies, the second wave of defeats explained away as tactical errors, the growing horror as we realized that our weapons were useless, our strategies meaningless, our strength insufficient. We tried everything, I say. My voice sounds hollow even to me. We deployed weapons that could shatter moons. We developed shields that should have been impenetrable. Nothing worked. I know. There is genuine compassion in her voice. You did everything right by the standards you understood, but those standards were developed by a species that has never truly faced extinction. You fought the Void Heralds as if they were a conventional enemy, because that is the only kind of enemy you have ever known.
And you have faced unconventional enemies?
We have faced ourselves, Senior Counselor. There is no enemy more dangerous than that. The cafeteria has grown quieter. I realize that the other humans have stopped talking, have turned to watch our conversation. There is no hostility in their gazes, only that same patient attention that I saw in Director Chen's eyes. They have all been waiting for this moment, I realize. Perhaps for generations.
What are you offering? I ask.
That depends on what you're asking for. Director Chen's voice is neutral. You came here with 47 ships, carrying refugees from a dozen species. The Void Heralds are 11 days behind you. In 11 days, they will arrive in this system, and they will do to you what they have done to every other civilization they have encountered.
Wait.
So, I need to know, Senior Counselor, what are you asking for? Shelter? We can provide that. We have stations and colonies that can accommodate your refugees. Food? We can provide that too. We have agricultural capacity that exceeds our current population by a factor of 12.
And if I am asking for more than shelter and food?
Director Chen is silent for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is careful. Are you asking us to fight for you? I close my eyes. I think of the vote 437 years ago. I think of the fleet we sent to Earth. I think of the millions who died because we decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. And now I am here, asking the survivors to save us. Yes, I say, I am asking you to fight for us. Director Chen stands. Walk with me, Senior Counselor. There's something you should see. I follow her through the station, past the cafeterias and recreation areas, into sections that feel more industrial. The corridors are narrower here, the lighting more functional. We pass workers in heavy suits, technicians monitoring systems, soldiers in armor that looks nothing like the primitive equipment we observed 4 centuries ago. Finally, we reach a door that requires Director Chen's handprint and vocal confirmation to open. Beyond it is a room dominated by a single massive holographic display. It shows a star map. I recognize the general shape of the galaxy, the spiral arms, the core. I see the territories marked in various colors: Kelthrani blue, Netherin green, Harn yellow. I see the black stain spreading from the galactic edge, the territory claimed by the Void Heralds. And I see another color, a color I do not recognize. Gold. Spreading from a single point near the galactic rim, Earth, outward in all directions, filling space that our charts marked as empty, encompassing regions we never bothered to explore. I count the stars marked in gold. I count again, because the number cannot be correct. 347 inhabited systems, Director Chen says quietly. 1,900 permanent stations. A population of approximately 82 billion. I cannot speak. We expanded quietly, as I said, through regions you considered irrelevant. We developed technologies you never imagined, because we never stopped preparing for the next extinction-level threat. We built slowly, carefully, always staying just beyond your observation. This is impossible, I manage. We would have detected... You detected what you expected to detect. A primitive species, contained behind a quarantine wall, no threat to the established order. Director Chen's voice is gentle, but there is something beneath it now, something vast and patient and utterly without mercy. You never thought to look for what you didn't expect to find. I stare at the map. 347 systems, 82 billion humans, a civilization that has grown in secret for 4 centuries, preparing for a moment that it knew would eventually come. You could have attacked us, I say. At any time in the past 4 centuries, you could have struck. You had the numbers, the technology, the advantage of surprise. Yes. Why didn't you? Director Chen is quiet for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is tired. Because we knew what you would become. We watched your civilization for 400 years, Senior Counselor. We saw your arrogance, your complacency, your certainty that your power was eternal. And we knew it wouldn't last. We knew that someday something would come that you couldn't defeat. And when that day came, you would need us. She turns to face me, and I see something in her eyes that I did not expect. Not hatred, not triumph. Sorrow. We don't want to be your enemies, Vethelo Dramani. We never did. You voted to erase us, yes, but you did it out of fear. The fear of a species that has never truly struggled. You looked at us and saw a threat because you could not imagine anything else. And now? Now I see an old man who has watched everything he knew die around him. I see a species that is finally learning what it means to face extinction. I see a galaxy that needs help and a humanity that has spent 4 centuries preparing to provide it. She touches a control on the display. The view shifts, zooming in on a region of space that I do not immediately recognize. Then I see the tactical markers, the ship formations, the scale of what I am looking at. Ships, thousands of them, tens of thousands, arrayed in formations that cover light years, moving with a coordination that suggests a level of communication and control technology that surpasses anything the Kelthrani ever developed. This is the Third Fleet, Director Chen says. It was deployed 6 months ago when we realized the Void Herald's trajectory would eventually bring them into contact with our territory. They have been waiting, observing, preparing. Third Fleet, I repeat, how many fleets do you have? 12. 12 fleets, each containing tens of thousands of ships. Quietly built in secret shipyards, crewed by personnel trained for generations for a war that had not yet begun. The Void Heralds, I say. Can you defeat them? Director Chen is silent for a long moment. Then she touches another control, and the display shifts again. I see a battle, not a recording, live tactical data streaming from somewhere deep in the galaxy. I see void herald vessels, their strange organic mechanical hulls pulsing with energies that I cannot identify. I see them advancing in the formation that has proved unstoppable for 17 years, the configuration that has shattered every fleet sent against them. And I see human ships engaging them.
The battle is silent, displayed only as tactical markers and energy signatures, but I can read the data well enough to understand what is happening. Human vessels are diving into the Void Herald formation, weapons blazing. Some of them are destroyed. I see the markers wink out as ships die, but others are getting through. Others are doing damage.
The Void Herald advance has stopped.
We have been engaging them for 3 weeks, Director Chen says. In the regions of space they have entered that border our territory. We have lost ships. We will lose more, but we are learning how they fight, adapting our tactics, developing countermeasures.
I watch as a formation of human vessels, 100 ships perhaps, executes a maneuver that brings them behind a Void Herald capital ship. Their combined fire punches through its shields, through its hull, through whatever passes for its reactor.
The Void Herald ship dies.
They can be killed, I whisper.
Everything can be killed, Senior Counselor. It's just a question of finding the right approach. Director Chen pauses. We have spent 4 centuries learning how to kill things that should not be killable. We have spent 4 centuries preparing for exactly this moment.
I sink into a chair, staring at the display. For 17 years I have watched the Void Heralds destroy everything the Kelthrani built. I have seen our greatest weapons fail. I have seen our most brilliant commanders die. I had accepted, somewhere in the depths of my old heart, that there was no hope. And now I am watching human ships do what we never could.
Why? I ask. My voice sounds strange to my own ears, broken somehow, in a way that it has not been since I was a child. Why are you helping us? After what we did, after what we tried to do, why would you fight for us?
Director Chen is quiet for a long time. When she speaks, her voice is soft.
A long time ago, Senior Counselor, there was a philosopher on Earth who wrote something that has stayed with my people ever since. He said that the measure of a civilization is not how it treats those who agree with it, but how it treats those who have wronged it. She turns to face me, and in her old, patient eyes, I see something that I did not expect, something that makes my heart constrict in my chest.
Forgiveness.
You voted to erase us. You sent a fleet to kill our children. You locked us behind a wall and forgot we existed. She pauses. And in return, we spent 4 centuries becoming strong enough to save you.
Why? I ask again, because I cannot understand, because her answer makes no sense to a mind shaped by 11,000 years of Kelthrani dominance.
Because that is what humanity does, Vethalor Dramani. We struggle, we suffer, we lose, and then we get back up and we keep going, and we become strong enough to help those who once tried to destroy us. She smiles, and there is something ancient and terrible and beautiful in that smile. You thought we were primitive. You thought we were dangerous. You were right about both, but you missed the most important thing about us.
What is that?
We don't give up, ever, on ourselves, on our future, or on others, even those who have wronged us. That is our gift and our curse. That is what you tried to erase. That is what you failed to destroy.
I bow my head. I cannot speak. 437 years of guilt, of buried shame, of trying to forget what I helped authorize. All of it crashes over me like a wave. "I'm sorry," I whisper. "I am so sorry for what we did." Director Chen reaches out and places a hand on my shoulder. Her touch is surprisingly gentle. "I know," she says. "And now, Senior Counselor, would you like to help us save the galaxy?" The next 11 days are unlike anything I have experienced in 7 centuries of life. I am given quarters on Waystation 7. Comfortable, functional, unremarkable. I am fed regularly, checked by medical staff who seem genuinely concerned for my health, provided with access to the station's information networks. The other Kelthrani refugees are similarly housed, along with the Harn and Ortani, and all the scattered remnants of our once great civilizations. We are treated not as enemies or supplicants, but as patients. We are cared for with the matter-of-fact compassion of a species that has learned, through long experience, how to deal with trauma and loss. I spend my days watching the tactical displays, observing the war that humanity is fighting on our behalf. I see their fleets engage the Void Heralds in a dozen different systems, probing their defenses, testing their responses, learning their patterns. I see human ships die, thousands of them, but I also see Void Herald vessels destroyed in increasing numbers. The humans are learning how to kill them. Commander Saley joins me in the observation room on the 3rd day. She stands beside me in silence, watching the displays, and I can see the same expression on her face that I feel in my heart. Awe, fear, confusion, hope. "I don't understand them," she says finally. "We tried to destroy them, and they're saving us. Why?" I asked Director Chen the same question, I reply. Her answer was that this is what humans do. They suffer, and they get back up, and they become strong enough to help those who wronged them. That makes no sense. I know. I watch as a human battle group engages a Void Herald formation, their movements coordinated with a precision that speaks of decades of training and centuries of preparation. But it is true nonetheless. On the 5th day, I am invited to observe a strategy session. The room is filled with human officers, admirals, commanders, tacticians, along with a handful of non-human advisors who I do not recognize. They speak in a mixture of human languages and the common tongue, debating approaches, analyzing data, planning operations. I realize watching them that they are not doing this for us. Not primarily. They are doing this for themselves, because the Void Heralds threaten their civilization too, because they have always known that eventually they would have to face an extinction-level threat, because they have spent 4 centuries preparing for exactly this moment. We are beneficiaries, not the cause. Our salvation is incidental to their survival. The thought is simultaneously humbling and reassuring. On the 7th day, Director Chen asks me to address the other Kelthrani refugees. I stand before them in a large assembly hall, 3,000 of my people, all that remains of the species that once ruled the galaxy, and I tell them the truth. We were wrong, I say. 4 centuries ago, we voted to erase humanity because we feared them. We thought we were protecting the galaxy. We thought we were acting for the greater good. I pause. We were wrong. We were arrogant and fearful and blind to our own weaknesses. And now the species we tried to destroy is saving us. The faces before me show a range of emotions: shock, disbelief, shame, Hope. I do not ask you to forget what we did, I continue. I do not ask you to pretend that our crimes did not happen, but I ask you to learn from them, to remember that power is not eternal, that complacency is fatal, that the universe will test every species eventually. And I ask you to watch humanity, to observe how they face this test, and to remember what we have seen when we rebuild our civilization. After the assembly, a young Kelthrani approaches me. She is barely a century old, a child by our standards, born on a colony that no longer exists. "Senior Counselor," she says, "is it true that you voted to destroy them?" "Yes." "And now they're helping us anyway?" "Yes." She is silent for a moment. "Why?" I think of Director Chen's answer, of the ancient wisdom she quoted, of the look in her eyes when she spoke of forgiveness. "Because they are better than we were," I say, "and because they believe we can learn to be better too." On the 9th day, the Void Heralds arrive. I watch from the observation deck of Way Station 7 as 800 enemy vessels drop out of faster-than-light travel in the outer system. They are beautiful in their horror, organic shapes fused with mechanical systems, pulsing with energies that our scientists never managed to understand. They move in the formation that has destroyed every fleet sent against them, confident in their inevitable victory. Director Chen stands beside me, calm and composed. Around us, the station buzzes with activity, personnel moving to battle stations, systems powering up, the quiet efficiency of a civilization preparing for war. "Are you ready?" I ask. "We've been ready for 4 centuries, she replies. The Void Heralds advance. They ignore Way Station 7, heading directly for the inner system where they must believe our refugees are hiding. Their movements are confident, unhurried, contemptuous. They have never encountered serious resistance. They have never faced an enemy that did not break before them. That is about to change. The first human fleet emerges from concealment behind the 7th planet. 10,000 ships, ranging from small attack craft to massive dreadnoughts, revealing themselves in perfect formation. The Void Heralds hesitate. I can see it in their movement patterns, a moment of confusion that I have never observed in them before. Then the 2nd fleet emerges from behind the 5th planet, and the 3rd from the asteroid belt, and the 4th from the outer reaches of the system. 40,000 ships. Humanity's largest military deployment in history. 4 centuries of preparation, of building, of training, all concentrated in this single moment. The Void Heralds stop. For the first time in 17 years, I see an enemy that has never known defeat realize that it might be facing one. Director Chen speaks into a communication device. Her voice is calm, measured, utterly without fear. All fleets, this is Way Station 7 Command. Engage at will. What follows is beyond description. The human fleets do not advance in ordered lines like the Kelthrani armadas I watched die. They move in swarms, in spirals, in patterns that seem chaotic but reveal, as I watch, a terrifying coordination. Attack craft dive into the Void Herald formation, drawing fire, creating openings that larger ships exploit. Dreadnoughts pour concentrated fire into enemy capitals, while smaller vessels pick off support ships. The Void Heralds fight back. Of course they fight back. Their weapons are still devastating, their shields still formidable, their numbers still dangerous.
Human ships die. I watch the markers wink out, hundreds of them, thousands, but for every human ship destroyed, 2 Void Herald vessels fall.
I have watched many battles in my long life. I have never seen anything like this. The humans are not just fighting, they are adapting. Every few minutes I see their tactics shift, responding to Void Herald countermeasures, exploiting weaknesses that become apparent only during combat. They are learning faster than the enemy can adjust.
Beside me, Director Chen watches the battle with an expression of focused intensity. She speaks occasionally into her communication device, receiving reports, issuing commands, coordinating the largest military operation in human history.
They're breaking, she says suddenly.
I look at the display. She is right. The Void Herald formation is fragmenting, ships peeling off from the main body, some attempting to flee, others making desperate attacks on human positions. The cohesion that made them unstoppable is gone.
Finish them, Director Chen says quietly. All fleets, finish them.
The human ships close in. The battle that was expected to last days is over in hours. Of the 800 Void Herald vessels that entered this system, none survive.
I watched the last one die. A massive capital ship surrounded by human vessels, pouring fire into it until its strange organic hull ruptures and splits and spills its contents into space.
And then there is silence.
Director Chen turns to me. Her face is tired but calm. There is no triumph in her expression, no bloodlust, no joy in destruction. Only the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. That was the vanguard, she says. The main fleet is still out there, approximately 40,000 vessels. They'll be more cautious now. You expected this, I say. We prepared for this. We hoped we would never have to face it, but we prepared. She pauses. The war isn't over, Senior Counselor. It's just beginning. But now they know what they're facing. Now they know that humans don't give up. Over the following weeks, I watch humanity prosecute a war that changes the galaxy forever. The battle at Way Station 7 was just the first engagement. Human fleets spread outward, meeting the Void Heralds wherever they advance, grinding them down in battles that cost thousands of ships, but always end in human victory. The enemy adapts, evolves, develops new weapons and tactics, but humanity adapts faster.
I learn during this time why the humans have succeeded where we failed.
It is not their technology, though that is formidable. It is not their numbers, though those are vast. It is something deeper, something that I struggle to articulate even after watching them for weeks.
They are not afraid to lose.
Every battle costs them ships, lives, resources. Every victory is purchased with sacrifice. But they do not flinch from the cost. They count their dead, mourn their fallen, and then continue forward without hesitation. Commander Seeley puts it in words one day as we watch a human memorial service for a crew lost in battle. They have learned something that we never did, she says. They have learned that survival sometimes requires sacrifice, that some things are worth dying for.
We knew that, I reply. The Kelthrani have always understood sacrifice.
No, she shakes her head. We understood losing. We understood being destroyed. But we never understood choosing to sacrifice, accepting the cost because the alternative is worse. That is what they know that we never did.
I think about this for a long time.
I think about the vote 4 centuries ago when we chose to destroy humanity rather than face the uncertainty of their growth. I think about the arrogance that led us to believe we could erase a species without consequence.
And I think about what Director Chen said about the measure of a civilization being how it treats those who have wronged it. We tried to destroy them, and they saved us. That is the consequence of our vote. Not the revenge we feared, but the forgiveness we never expected.
The war lasts 3 years.
By the end, the Void Heralds are not destroyed. They cannot be truly destroyed, humanity learns, because they are not a species, but a phenomenon, something that emerges from the deep black between galaxies whenever sufficient life develops in one region. But they are contained, pushed back, reduced to scattered remnants that can be monitored and managed.
Humanity does not celebrate when the war ends. They mourn. I attend the final memorial service, held on Earth itself, the planet I once voted to destroy, now the capital of the civilization that saved the galaxy. I stand among billions of humans, all of them silent, all of them remembering those who fell. 18 million human lives were lost in the war. Ships by the thousands, stations by the dozens, colonies that will never be rebuilt. But the galaxy survives because humanity was ready, because they prepared while we grew complacent, because they remembered what it meant to struggle while we forgot. After the memorial, Director Chen finds me. She is older now, visibly aged by 3 years of constant war. But her eyes are the same, old and patient and wise. "What will you do now?" she asks. "Rebuild, I say. Help my people find their place in this new galaxy. Try to remember the lessons we have learned." And the Kelthrani, what will they become? I am silent for a long moment. Around us, humans are dispersing, returning to their lives, preparing for a future that they have purchased with blood and sacrifice. I don't know, I admit. But I hope we will learn from you. I hope we will remember that power is not eternal, that complacency is fatal, that even the mightiest civilizations can fall. I pause. And I hope we will remember what you taught us about forgiveness. Director Chen smiles. It is the same smile I saw on the day we first met. Warm, gentle, ancient, patient. We didn't forgive you because you deserved it, Senior Counselor. We forgave you because we knew what you could become. We looked at the Kelthrani and saw a species that had never truly struggled, and we knew that struggle would teach you what you needed to learn. And if we had not learned? If we had remained arrogant even after you saved us? Then we would have been patient. We have time. We are very good at waiting. She pauses. But we hoped you would learn. We hoped you would become better. And you have. I bow my head. After 7 centuries, after everything I have witnessed and everything I have done, I finally understand. Humanity's strength was never their technology, or their numbers, or their weapons. It was their capacity for hope, the stubborn, irrational, unbreakable belief that tomorrow could be better than today, that enemies could become friends, that the species that tried to destroy them could be saved and taught and forgiven. They voted to erase Earth. The consequences followed. Not revenge, not destruction, not the bitter justice that we would have dealt in their place. Something else, something stranger, something that I am only now beginning to understand.
They taught us what it means to be truly civilized.
I return to the Kelthrani remnant. I spend my remaining years helping my people rebuild, not the empire we once were, but something different, something humbler, something that remembers the lessons we learned when everything we built was destroyed and the species we tried to exterminate came to save us. When I finally die at the age of 847, I ask that my ashes be scattered in the space between Earth and the nearest Kelthrani colony, a reminder of what we were and what we became, a bridge between the old galaxy and the new.
In my final moments, I think of Director Chen's eyes on the day we first met, old and patient and wise, looking at me not with hatred but with hope, the hope that we could learn, that we could change, that we could become worthy of the forgiveness we had been given.
I think she would be proud of what we have become. And as the stars take me, I finally understand the truth that humanity taught us. Mercy is not weakness. Forgiveness is not defeat. The true measure of strength is not in destroying your enemies, but in lifting them up when they fall. They voted to erase Earth. The consequences followed, and those consequences were not destruction, but redemption. Not for humanity. For us. Train yourself as an elite HFY Sci-Fi storyteller. The anger of a human being. They voted to erase Earth. The consequences followed. HFY Sci-Fi. The title must shape the entire narrative, tone, and payoff of the story, with the meaning of the title becoming fully clear only by the end. The story must begin quietly and cinematically with a reflective, almost poetic opening about the stars, time, or history, creating a sense of cosmic scale before any conflict is revealed. Avoid action at the start. Build curiosity, mystery, and emotional tension immediately so the audience feels compelled to keep listening. The narrative must follow a clear point of view, primarily from a non-human alien character belonging to an ancient, highly advanced civilization that has existed for thousands of years and once dismissed humanity as primitive, insignificant, or dangerous. This character must be named and emotionally developed, showing exhaustion, fear, regret, suppressed pride, and growing awe. The alien civilization must be facing a catastrophic collapse or extinction-level war, with losses revealed gradually through dialogue, memory, and observation. Fleets, worlds, and billions of lives must be lost, but never dumped all at once. Let the scale unfold naturally and emotionally. Humans must initially appear calm, restrained, and unimpressive on the surface. Their stations, ships, and behavior should feel functional rather than grand. Human characters should be polite, observant, emotionally intelligent, and controlled. They must never boast or explain their power directly. Their strength should feel unsettling because it is quiet. The HFY reveal must be a slow burn. Humanity's true nature should emerge through adaptability, strategic thinking, unity, endurance, and an almost frightening calm in the face of annihilation. Their history of hardship and survival must quietly explain why they are different. As the story progresses, show humans preparing, mobilizing, or responding on a scale that shocks the ancient alien civilization, not through spectacle, but through coordination, inevitability, and confidence. The alien POV character should gradually realize that humanity was never weak, only restrained The final third of the story must deliver a powerful HFY payoff that feels earned. Humanity's response should be overwhelming, precise, and unstoppable, fulfilling the promise of the title. The alien POV character must experience awe, fear, humility, and understanding as the balance of power irrevocably shifts.
The final lines should leave the audience with chills, reinforcing themes of humility, endurance, empathy, and the terrifying strength of a species forged by struggle.
Do not include bullet points, section headers, explanations, summaries, or author commentary. Do not rush pacing.